You may all be wondering, Halloween, what is your opinion on the whole Xbox One thing? Like, especially over the last couple of days, all the new news has come out. And if you're not thinking that, well, tough, because I'm going to be talking about it anyway. So, whatevs. Mainly, it's become such a problem now that it really needs to be talked about. I've made a couple of points on Twitter, and I really just wanted to make a video about it. I'm going to start off with this direct quote from Microsoft, because I feel it's quite important to sort of set the scene here. I quote, "With Xbox One, you can game offline for up to 24 hours on your primary console, or 1 hour if you're logged in on a separate console accessing your library. Offline gaming is not possible after these pre-subscribed times until you re-establish a connection, but you can still watch live TV and enjoy Blu-ray and DVD movies." Now, that quote pretty much sums up their stance overall. They're trying to portray this as a good thing, where, of course, this is obviously PR spin working its business, but it's not working, mainly because the internet is exploding. So let's rewind slightly. So let's see what's going on. Microsoft are releasing a new console called the Xbox One, or the Xbone, as it's been lovingly christened. Now, this machine is obviously the next-gen version of the Xbox 360, and which in turn was the next-gen version of the Xbox. Now, the name alone is a bit confusing, but I mean, this is by far the least of the problems here. The Xbox One as a name is a bit silly, but so was the Wii, and that did fine, so never mind. The main problem here is that there was a lot of rumours going around that there's going to be some nasty DRM attached to this system. Now, in case you don't know what DRM is, it's digital rights management. Now, normally it's used in quite a broad term, but in this case it's digital rights management software, which essentially stops you doing certain things with the games you buy or the software you use. In this case, it's stopping you playing the games offline after a 24-hour period. Now, obviously that's quite a problem. Even one of the biggest culprits of DRM on the PC, which would be Steam, which everyone has to use, I might add, these days games are actually tied into Steam whether you like it or not, especially disc copies like Dishonored or Silent Hill that are tied in directly to it, which is really quite irritating. But besides the point, you can actually play those offline. There is an offline mode on Steam. It didn't used to work very well, it does okay now. Once you can just tell it to go offline and it'll work fine. It doesn't seem to want to reconnect that often. It's not perfect, but it's still a step in the right direction, although I dislike it regardless. Now, you've got this new Xbox where it's asking to reconnect every 24 hours. Now, that's a problem. That's a massive problem that probably console gamers have never had to deal with yet. I mean, there are some things on the Xbox 360 that require actual connectivity, such as the independent games. You know, the Xbox independent games, where, you know, there were like 80 Microsoft points, and you got like a Zombie Stomper or like nudie card game where you'd play poker and stuff. You know, things like that. You had to be online on Xbox Live to play those, and most people barely noticed because it's quite a low key thing, isn't it? But now you're actually going to have where all games are going to require this connection period. After 24 hours, if it doesn't dial home, you no longer can access any of your games. Now, I don't know about you, but not everybody lives in a fantastic internet area. I mean, my internet's actually fairly stable, but not everyone's going to live in a place where you can always dial home, so to speak, using the internet all the time. Now, of course, let's say, for example, that you haven't been able to pay your internet bill. Bam, internet goes off. Therefore, you can no longer play your games on your new shiny machine, which is a bit of an issue. You're having issues. Your router dies. Bam, can no longer play your games. You know, the ISP themselves, that's the internet service provider, is having an issue. Bam, can no longer play your games. There's 3 very simple and very quite frequent examples of why you wouldn't be able to access the internet. Among other things. I mean, it could just be that sometimes the internet isn't working for various reasons, technical or not, and that should have nothing to do with a games console. Now, here's the thing. Microsoft got to the point where they no longer care about you as consumers. They just see you as numbers. Now, they're assuming that, of course, you're all going to be silly enough just to buy into this just because. Now, what they're actually aiming to do with this machine is basically offer a peace offering, if you like, to the publishers and to the companies, where what they're doing is saying, look, on our machine, they always have to be online, therefore they can't pirate anything anymore, because it'll be able to check. There'll be no machine. None of our machines will be able to have pirated games on there. Essentially, that's what they're trying to sell anyway. So that's not a problem. You will no longer be able to use pre-owned games because everything goes through us. You'll be able to trade in games with us. Now, this is something we'll have to get to in a minute anyway. And they will no longer be able to trade their games to their friends unless specific conditions are met. These kind of things. And so the publishers are going to be loving this, and they're going to get themselves a lot of exclusives, mainly through EA and other very bad, poor companies you shouldn't ever give your money to. Anyone who really buys into this it's time to stop giving them money. Anyway, they need to be taught a bit of a lesson, and it's all down to now as how far can you be pushed as a consumer. you are the customers after all, and the phrase vote with your wallet is always a very poor phrase because it doesn't always work, but it's something that will have to apply sooner or later. Are you going to stand up for yourselves and not put up with this garbage? Are you going to say no to crippling DRM, or are you going to roll over and accept it? Now, I've mentioned one, let's go through the rest of the stuff really. So, I'm going to again quote from Microsoft. Now, let's be fair here, not everything they're selling with the new machine is terrible. There's a lot of stuff. Here you go. Buy the way you want, disc or digital on the same day. You'll be able to buy disc-based games at traditional retailers or online through Xbox Live on day of release. Now, there's nothing wrong with that as a good feature, you know, that is a good thing. You want to be able to either go down to the shop and pick up your disc, or say you have really good fast internet, you can just download your game overnight, say on day of release, or download it before you go. And I assume some of these will have the download and install play while you download and install, which will be great. So that's quite a nice viable option. That's something good they can add. Now the rest of these actually are more negatives, they span into positives. Share access to your games with everyone inside your home. Your friends and family, your guests and acquaintances get unlimited access to all your games. Now, they're spinning this as a feature. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, if I get out my Super Nintendo, my friends and family, my acquaintances and other people will be able to play any of my Super Nintendo games, mainly because I plug it in and they can play it. Now, because the Super Nintendo doesn't have an account as such, there isn't ever a problem. Now, the Xbox all does things by accounts, of course. What they're trying to say really is like, don't worry, everyone can have an account and they can access their games wherever they want, or they can access your games wherever they want, blah blah blah. They're spinning essentially the DRM into a positive. They are keeping track of your games for you, therefore wherever you go you can always play them, under certain conditions of course. If you're not on your primary console, which is the sort of the thing here, if you're not on the primary console, then, well, you have to check in every hour rather than every 24. But that's another problem entirely. There we go, what else? That was an interesting spin. Trade in and resell your disc-based games. Today, some gamers choose to sell their old disc-based games back for cash and credit. We designed Xbox One so game publishers can enable you, here's the important bit of the phrase by the way, can enable you, to trade in your games at participating retailers. Now, not only does this screw over all the poor independent stores, it also screws you over as a consumer. No longer can you trade in your games as you please, you'll no longer be able to sell them on eBay or Amazon if you want to, nor will you be able to pick up second-hand games and play them. They all have to go through Microsoft or their participating retailers, if it's enabled for that game. It certainly seems that they don't have to do that. There's nothing saying, yes, that's okay, everyone has to do it. It's a case of if they want to. Now, it says Microsoft does not charge for this fee. It's like trying to say that this, we're doing you a favour, when again they're not, they're controlling the market. Pretty certain that's not really that legal, but there we go. Give your games to your friends. Xbox One is designed so a game publisher can enable you to give your disc-based games to your friends. There are no fees charged as part of these transfers. Oh well, just as well, because again I could probably lend old cartridges to my friends without paying anything either, that's quite handy. There are 2 requirements. You can only give them to people that have been on your friends list for at least 30 days, and each game can only be given once. Therefore essentially curbing the whole selling private thing. They're doing it so if you want to sell private, you're going to have to go through the hassle of knowing someone for 30 days on your friends list before you can sell the game over to them. Of course, no one will do that because it's too much of a faff. They are doing everything here to support themselves as a company and pander to all the big old corporations. Now, they're doing none of this here is done as a favour to you. Like, correct me if I'm wrong, but I remember a time where companies would sell the features that would be good for you, not for them, as part of their new machines. The Nintendo 64 will be great because it offers you fantastic new graphics. You can play 4 players with your friends. You know, you can use these robust cartridges and take them wherever you want. The PlayStation 1, you can take these lovely CDs to your friend's house and play them wherever you want. Should you get bored of these games, you can trade them all in. Things like this. And I honestly don't know what they're really trying to do with this. Like I said, they're trying certainly to be as anti-consumer as humanly possible, which is not only bizarre, but really quite appalling in terms of what they're actually doing here. I mean, this has been a PR disaster of exceptional proportions anyway, but the problems this brings along is basically huge. You're looking at a console that really wants to check in, knows what you're doing at all times. You have that Kinect camera which always wants to be on, and they certainly do have the patents to sell information and collect information on you, your gaming habits and things like that. Now, that will be a direct opt-in if they chose to go that route. Chances are it'd be in some of the terms and conditions somewhere, like, oh, when you make your account, say, like, you make your account, you agree to the fact that Microsoft can sell all your crap. Go figure. But I don't know whether they will do that, because I don't think that's very legal in most parts of the world, but there we go. Even if you opt into something, if it goes against what's allowed in law, it doesn't count, therefore they can probably do it. Well, here we go. This is where you hit this sort of standpoint here, and just how far do you let this go. As a consumer, it's up to you whether you're willing to accept this. Are you going to accept the fact that your consumer rights are being infringed upon at this point? That buying a new machine is now no longer just for playing games, it's basically to pander to a corporation that you really honestly shouldn't care about or even need to care about. That the ability to just offline play your games, just plug in and play, is no longer there. It's now wants to be a multimedia device that you don't necessarily need or want. Because what it seems like to me, in my opinion, is they are trying to make essentially a cheaper PC, but they control everything that goes into it. The PC, as you know, is an open platform. You can essentially do what you want with it, and there's no way of them to stop or control that. That's how PCs work, really. You use separate operating systems, or you can use free operating systems. You know, you don't have to use the standard ones if you don't want to. Of course, with a Microsoft build, in a Microsoft machine, you have to do everything that they chuck down the pipe. That's the way it works. Unless a separate operating system you put on it, which it probably won't. But the main problems here is it's got down to crunch point. Are you willing to be shat on or not? Is really the point here. Are you willing to never have pre-owned games on a machine like this? Are you willing to always have a machine that has to check in every 24 hours? Are you willing to essentially have a gaming machine that should only play games? Doesn't need. Why does it need to check back 24 hours? To check you're not stealing? To check, to make sure you're not pirating things? They shouldn't be treating you as a consumer as a pirate, for starters. That's wrong. Look at how some of the better PC publishers do it. Look at CD Projekt Red. For example, they treat their consumers as valued customers. They give extra people to people who purchase the game. You buy our box version, you get loads of all this cool stuff with it. You pirate it, you only just get the game by itself. So you're offering incentives to people who buy the game new. Whereas in this case, they're treating everyone as a pirate, everyone as a criminal, and just be done with it. The trade-in thing is a bit of an issue. The participating retailers, I presume, will be GameStop in the US and Game over here in the UK. All the independent stores, of course, are going to be screwed out of this. And it's publisher discretion as well, which is a bit dodgy. But there you go. Overall, this has been a rather big mess. There's nothing here that's, well, of any value to anybody other than Microsoft themselves and the corporations they represent, I suppose. Sorry, do excuse me, I have nasty hay fever. It's getting to be a bit of a problem now. And the other problem, of course, now Microsoft have done all this, they've chucked everything piled up in their court, and they've sort of said, well, come at us. And, they said to Sony, what are you going to do? Now, Sony can go about this two ways, of course. They can either ignore Microsoft and just release their essentially DRM-free machine, or as much as it will be these days, that doesn't require online checks and can play second-hand games, or they backpedal because all the publishers are going to be releasing games not on their system. It's going to be a tricky one. E3 is going to be interesting. So there you have it. Where does the buck stop? And how far can people be pushed before they actually say, no, I'm not going to put up with this anymore? But there you go. That's the sort of lowdown. I mean, my opinion on this is just that. I mean, like I said, I'm just, once again, sticking my oar in where it's not asked for, but still, it's, there you go, that's my opinion. It's poor, shall we say. And while, I should say, the 24-hour online check, technically it's not required, but of course you lose access to your games. You can still play your movies and things, though, which is good for your games machine, right? In my opinion, there's too much gumph coming from these new machines. What you need is a console that plays video games. This is what, I know it sounds a bit old-fashioned, but hey, stick with me. I grew up with a machine that played video games. It was fine. I buy machines these days that just play video games. I don't want to watch movies on them. I don't need the Blu-ray drives. I don't need the Blu-ray movie functions, if you like. If I want a multimedia device, I will buy a multimedia device. I've got my PC, for example. It will do all of that better, and without any of the DRM crap in the way. Now, the consoles, why do I need those? What I want it to do is I want to put the cartridge in, I want to put the disc in, I want to put play, and I want to play the game. That's the entire point. I don't want a glorified TV, I don't want a glorified DVD drive. The bottom line is, don't support DRM. Don't support stupid shit that Microsoft are pulling here. Just say no. Don't buy it. But hey, don't listen to my opinion. There's plenty of other more educated and important internet people out there who have better opinions on that. More importantly, listen to your own opinions. Like, can you really say to yourself, this sounds like a good deal? Being forced to have it online, being checked up upon at all times, and being controlled through the second-hand market, the trade-in market controlled on this machine, that's a good thing, and that's what I want. And if you can say that to yourself with no doubts, then hey, good for you. I'm hoping for the rest of us will say no, and this will go into the history books as a failed abortion of a console. But hey, that's that. So that's that, yep. That's me done, I'd say, on this. Love to see your opinions, as per usual. Feel free to chuck them below. I might add follow-ups on this, but yeah, that's pretty much it, really. I'm just rambling at this point. No Silent Hill tonight. I can't remember if I mentioned this or not. I'm a little bit ill. I've got hay fever, so I wouldn't be able to do this without sniffing my way through it. I've done quite well not trying to sniff for the entire way through this, so I'm going to go off and sneeze like a billion times now. That's it. That's my thoughts and opinions on it. I will be doing an E3 video. I'll also be a semi-live blogging, if you like, E3 from my Twitter account, if you guys want to have a look. If you guys want to ask me direct questions, please, Twitter. It's twitter.com/Halloween4545. Ask me a question on there, because that's where I'll see it. The YouTube inbox isn't looked at enough to keep track of. So, thanks for listening, guys. I hope that was semi-reasonable and clear. Please check your opinions down. I'd love to hear them. And with that, I'm off to die. So, thank you very much. Until then.